Okay, this is part two. And in this, I'm going to talk about the first dynamic at play between the two types of routes that I mentioned in the first video. Before I talk about it, I wanted to, I wanted to mention that when I shoot these videos, one thought that occurs to me is I think I could, if I wanted to, I could sit down and shoot, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 5 videos every day for the rest of my life. But if I did that, um, it's occurred to me that most of them would be boring to me to shoot. And the reason why they would be boring to me to shoot is that I would be reciting things I already know. And if I already know it, I don't really want to waste my time shooting it. Even if it could help others, that's great. But if it doesn't interest and excite me, what's the point as far as I'm concerned? Because I'm doing it partly because there's a joy in talking about some things. And where's the joy coming from? The joy is coming from the fact that there are things that are new to me that I've thought of that I'm just sharing. And what I call new, I would equate with what we call the element of surprise. So, for example, most of us like good jokes. And I would imagine that what makes a joke a good joke for most of us is that there's an element of surprise in the punchline. The punchline sort of gets us, and we're like, oh, and we giggle at the delight that the surprise gives our mind. I think our minds are made to be delighted at the element of surprise. I mean, unless it's a horrifying surprise. But maybe even then there's a part of the mind that delights in it. But a well-told joke has surprise. And so I happen to think that a life full of surprise can be a delightful life, a life that is more fun, more enjoyable. And so when I think about the scenic route, so if one were to take that scenic route, there are many beautiful scenes. So every scene that one comes upon, there's a kind of a surprise of like, wow, this is so beautiful. Wow, this is so nice. This neighborhood is so nice. And if I were to take someone who's never walked that route, I think that person would experience a lot of delight of mind. And they'd say, that was a great walk. Now, if they were staying with me for a month and the next morning I said, let's take the same walk, I don't think they'd have the same level of excitement, because they might be like, oh yeah, I've already seen that, I've seen that. But they might notice something new. And they might have 2 or 3 things that they see new. But everything else they've already seen. So they might be less excited. The next day I say, let's go on the exact same walk. They might be like, I don't want to go, I've already seen everything. Right? It's kind of like if you took a trip to Yosemite or some national park, and I'll just use Yosemite, and you went to the vantage point of El Capitan during a sunrise, where the sun, I think, hits the side of the mountain, side of the cliff. I think that's during sunrise. It could be sunset, I don't remember. And it's supposed to be glorious, beautiful, and you see it, it's amazing. I don't think many people then say, let's do this every day for a month. Let's look at the same sunset every day. Why? Because I think people naturally get bored. They're like, I've already seen it. I want to see something else. Right? So there's that. A lot of times when people travel, people don't go. They don't. When people travel, they don't go to the same scene. Like if I go to Italy, or if people go to Italy and they go to the Colosseum, they don't say, let's go to the Colosseum every day to take the same tour when we have 1 week in Italy, in Rome. They say, let's look at the Colosseum, let's go to the Vatican. Like they want to see different things. So to me, that's built in, I would say that's built into the nature of taking in the scenic route. And why is that built in? I believe, I would argue that it's based on the mind's almost thirst or hunger or need for surprise, that it's a source of delight to be surprised, to see things that are new. Now, in light of that, why would a meditative walk that takes the exact same route every single day at around every single time for years on end never bore a person? maybe not everybody, but my experience is I've never had the thought this is boring. I think there's a number of reasons, but I got another notification. All right, so the the main argument that I want to make is this. Part of meditating, and I talked about bringing my mind to the sensation of things. Now, that's one way of practicing walking meditation, but one could easily just breathe in and out while walking and follow one's breath. So as one's breathing out, one could make a mental note, breath is going or out. As one's breathing in, one could make a mental note, in, out, in. And one could be doing that the entire walk. Or one could focus on the sensation of the breath going through the nostrils, the sensation like around the nostrils. So as one's breathing in, one's bringing attention to the sensation on the nostrils. It doesn't matter too much, I would say, what technique one's using, but I'll focus on the one that I use. So when my attention is on the sensation of my foot touching the ground, that's a sensation that's occurring in the moment. The sensation doesn't occur a year from today. It hasn't occurred 5 years ago. It's occurring now. And again, if one is simply following one's breath and mentally noting out, in, that noting is happening on something that's occurring in the moment of breath going out, breath going in. So again, one's consciousness, one's awareness is centering around something that's happening now. It would be very similar to, like, imagine you're sitting or you're walking, it doesn't matter, and you look out at whatever's in front of you and you tell yourself, I'm going to try to be very present in this moment by focusing on what's in front of me visually right now, like I'm doing right now. I'm focusing on a clip that's holding this phone in place. I'm focusing on the visual image of myself staring back at me, and so on. So that's a way to bring my awareness into the moment. So even though or I would say in Eastern forms of meditation, one doesn't think about bringing oneself into the moment. I think that's a very Western kind of idea, or possibly Indian idea. But I hear it more in the Western traditions. So even though the idea is to focus on something that's happening, the idea isn't to be here now, it's just to bring one's mind and be aware of what's happening. And we call that being mindful. So when it comes to meditation, part of meditation is to become mindful of what's happening. And so during my walking meditation, I'm mindful of the sensations that are occurring on the soles of my feet, moment to moment. So I'm becoming mindful of something that's happening in the moment, meaning I'm becoming more and more engaged in the moment. Now, I'm hoping that what I'm about to say is a relatable thing. But what I found is that the more that my awareness is in the moment, the more engaged I become with what's around me. Another way to say that is the more I'm in my head fantasizing or planning or regretting or ruining something in the past or something way off in the future, the less what's around me is available to my awareness and attention. Yeah. So like there could be children playing, birds flying, whatever, beautiful cumulus clouds flying overhead, but I could be worried about something in my mind and miss out on all of it. Again, so the opposite of that is if I don't have my head stuck in the sand, in other words, I'm not worried about tomorrow, worried about yesterday, and so on, and I'm closer to this moment, everything that's around me is more available to me. So even if I'm walking a route that I've walked thousands of times, the grasses and the brick wall and the way the bricks are laid and the way that the branches are swaying in the breeze, everything has a fresh quality when one is present in the moment. And what I find is that that sense of surprise that I talked about, it's not a surprise as in like a joke or, wow, I've come upon a vista and I'm seeing this beautiful scenery I've never seen before. But it's more that there are these quieter, subtle surprises that delight the mind. Like suddenly one notices the bird chirping, or one notices an extra sort of facial gesture in the person saying hello that one wouldn't have noticed if one was more ensconced in one's thinking. But if one becomes more available to the moment, one notices little details that one didn't notice, and these continue to offer that sense of delight to the mind. And so the practice of meditation has built into it, most forms of meditation, at least the kind that I'm doing, has a quality of what we call mindfulness, or becoming more attentive and more mindful of what's happening, as in what's happening in the moment. So as we become more available to the moment becomes more available to our awareness. And the moment, what's around us visually, orally, if we're eating something, what we taste, right? Like how many of you, and I've done this hundreds of thousands of times, eaten a expensive meal, or let's say a $20 meal, $20 or more meal, like at McDonald's or whatever, or Chipotle. Actually, Chipotle is $12 now, but because I just went there 3 days ago, and maybe you've spent 3 seconds of that time actually tasting, because you were thinking or involved in a conversation where you were more focused on the conversation, and that's fine. But when we're available to what's there, there's a richness around us, and that richness is always available in the moment. And the more we sort of close down from what's around us, what is in this moment, the more, I would say, the more hungry or thirsty we become for that same sense of excitement. So then we need to look for more scenery. We need to change our routine, or our walking routine in this case, to create more variety. But in fact, if one is more present in the moment, my experience again is there's absolutely no need to change the route. One can take the exact same route day after day, and there's the same, I would say, an even broader sense of mental delight and fulfillment that occurs to a mind that's more mindful. And again, my version of the sort of scenic walk was I was doing it mostly for exercise. So my mind was scattered. I would just think about whatever I was thinking about that day. If I was worried about something in the future, I'd just be worried about it and occasionally notice nice scenery or say hi to people. But my mind wasn't very present because I wasn't consciously trying to be present. I wasn't using any meditative method to be consciously available to the moment. So anyway, so that's the first factor, or the first dynamic that I think distinguishes these two routes, the scenic route and the meditative route.